Hey guys, this is Ray Genjua and this is Thor. This episode is to commemorate a very fantastic filmmaker, the late Richard Donner. He's sadly passed away. So this episode is dedicated to his legacy as a filmmaker and a producer. He was a big inspiration to me. As a child, I saw the original Superman film, Goonies. I love the Lethal Weapon franchise, and he did like a lot of great films that I loved. My favorite films being like Lethal Weapon 1. I actually like all the Lethal Weapon films. They're really cool. So 1, 2, 3, and 4 are wicked. 4 was cool because it had Jet Li in it. It really kind of like sort of brought the franchise to a conclusion, and in a kind of satisfying way. They had all kind of matured out and were settling down and stuff. Tonally, that was great. I will always love Goonies. Goonies is a great movie. I remember when I first saw Goonies, I had like it was a funny story because me and Z, we had it on tape and we missed like the start. So the start was on one tape, and then the bit where the Fratellis are chasing the Goonies down that, the watery area with the ramp, and one of the brothers flips. Joey Pantoliano, he slips and falls, and they complain about his toupee and stuff, his hairpiece. That bit used to stop, so there was another whole part of the film that was on another tape, and we had to switch tapes to see it. It wasn't until the Goonies got remastered and was brought out on DVD that I get a copy of it. And then I actually, my mind had to get used to seeing the film in its entirety, because I always would see the tracking break there. And that's what's hilarious about some films. You kind of grow up and then you see a film in this kind of the old format of VHS, and it was short play. It wasn't long play. Like there were like two different ways that you could set a VHS to record stuff. So yeah, it's just such classic memories of being like a little kid and experimenting with them, because my uncle and my dad, they used to do hi-fi and TV repair and all this kind of stuff. They used to own a shop. So I was surrounded by all these great things, and I remember seeing Superman for the first time, and he introduced us to a world where a man could fly, and Marlon Brando's amazing performance as Jor-El, and Chris Reeves. I really miss Chris Reeves because Christopher Reeves embodied, he was like the living Superman. He was the, for me, he was my first Superman. I'm a big fan of Superman as a character. I love what he represents, and I love the different actors' portrayals of him over the years. So Christopher Reeve portrayed him with such, like warmth and strength. He had this stature about him. He was like chiseled, and had this great presence as Superman. And he was a great bumbling Clark as well. He had a great kind of kind of like classic Action Comics kind of look to Superman. I always loved the first Superman. I remember when I was a kid, I liked the second one, but I didn't realize that it was, they had taken a lot of Donner's stuff and they had fired him. It was only until I was older, I realized that the Salkins had let him go and used his footage and then hired Richard Lester. So Richard Lester's a very accomplished director too. He directed like the Three Musketeers, the Four Musketeers, the Return of the Musketeers and stuff, and I loved that franchise. But I always felt that, like when I got older, I didn't really like Superman 2's reshoots. I could actually see them, like to see the difference. So when they announced the Donner cut, I was so happy when I finally saw, a true vision of what what Dick wanted to do with the franchise, and it was really satisfying. Obviously he couldn't finish everything that he shot, which I thought that was something that was cheated from him as a filmmaker. And as a director myself, I feel that I really don't want to get into a position like that where I am doing a film and then there's animosity between the producers and me. I try not to let that happen, but of course, you have to have a unified and kind of everyone has to have a unified vision of what this film's gonna be like. And sadly, that didn't happen with Superman 2. They were like, I guess there were like too many cooks in the kitchen kind of thing, and they wouldn't let Dick do his stuff, and he was such a sort of like a very creative, like very good filmmaker. I mean, obviously coming from his acting background, he was an actor's director, so he could work on people's strength. Like, this guy could capture like the strongest, very, very, very well-toned performances from actors, like the way he utilized Mel Gibson's strengths as the suicidal Riggs, was amazing. And to show his arc from, like, obviously his wife getting killed by those South African mercenaries, and his descent into this kind of off the rails kind of officer who just wanted to meet death head on. And then the juxtaposition of Murtaugh, played by Danny Glover, who's just amazing. I would love to work with both of them, Mel and Danny. They're both great actors. Danny played the great straight man, the cop who's basically tired. He's been on the force for ages. He just wants to settle down now, like with his family. And he's like, that duo just works so well. And then when they introduced Joe Pesci, it was so funny. And I will never forget, number 4, him and Chris Rock, the back and forth that they have, that's just some comedy gold. I mean, they're just amazing actors. Renee was amazing, when she was introduced. The rest of the cast round out the franchise really well. Just really good stuff. And then, with the Goonies, with Sean Astin and the gang, Goonies will forever be like just a great adventure film for me. A really cool movie. And he's done a lot of great films as well that I didn't realize until I was older that he directed, like Scrooge. Scrooge was a crazy kind of like take on that Christmas, was it the Christmas Carol? I can't really remember that one where the guy Scrooge is like, what's it called? He's like, doesn't care about people and stuff. This was like the kind of TV exec version of that, which was really cool, starring Bill Murray from Ghostbusters. So yeah, that was a really cool film too. And when Dick met Laura Donner, I think he was working on Lady Hawk or something at the time, like this movie he made. Lady Hawk's a film I haven't seen, which is very interesting. Just never got around to watching it. And The Omen I did see. The Omen was very well directed by him. That was like his, I think, directorial debut. So The Omen was a pretty eerie kind of movie. It was kind of like in the kind of same kind of, it was painted in the same kind of brush as The Exorcist. So yeah, no, I'm really gonna miss Richard Donner. It's sad that he passed away. I'll never get to meet him, and just have some tea with him and just talk about film. That's just something that I feel, kind of sad about, because I mean, he inspired me as a filmmaker and really taught me a lot, and he was like one of my teachers, but from far away. So I just wanted to thank him for his contributions, to film and inspiring me as a film director. Yeah, it just, it's great. I mean, I really want to give my condolences to Laura and the rest of the Donner family, during this trying time, and, his close friends and stuff are no doubt going to be really sad about his passing. So I'm just giving them my sincerest condolences. And yeah, just, the legacy that they left behind was great, because, we got the Xmen films, and then the Xmen films led to the Marvel films. So, it was a great kind of seed that they placed. I still remember when I first saw the Xmen films. I mean, they're so cringy now, watching them. But for me, it was such a huge deal to see Wolverine on screen. I will always love, Jimmy Marsden, Hugh Jackman. These guys are just such wicked actors, man. I felt like Bryan Singer never fully utilized them. The first film tried. Ray Park killed it. Halle was good. Famke was good. Ian McKellen, Patrick Stewart. It was just an amazing cast. The first movie, and setting things up, and the second film, everyone was saying was so good. And I loved Kelly Hu in it as Lady Deathstrike and stuff, and all the stuff. But the X-Men films just didn't have the costumes. It didn't have the whole blacked out kind of murdered out look. It didn't really click with X-Men because I was so used to the Chris Claremont kind of color world and an X-Men task that after a little while I stopped liking it. I mean, Last Stand was so bad. Like when Brett Ratner did that stank so bad. And you know, it kind of made the franchise lose its kind of momentum for a while until, things kind of came back. But the X-Men films is something that I wish I could have a crack on, because I know I could make those wicked. I could make the costumes work in such a way that you wouldn't think that this looks campy or silly and stuff, because like Donner, he treated the subject matter very seriously and straight, not in this kind of campy farce. So a lot of directors like Snyder, Tim Burton, they were inspired by him and what he did with Superman. Superman was really kind of like the film to kind of start that ball of, taking comic book heroes and treating the subject matter seriously, like a fantasy epic, So yeah, I just want to thank him. Thank you so much, Richard Donner, for all your contribution in film, and may you rest in peace. The R.E.P Knights, yeah, we were really inspired by you, so thank you so much.